This is Empowered Human Academy. Welcome home.
Intuition, especially if you treat it as a muscle and you keep using it, it will, I think, help you get comfortable with not having to make decisions when you're faced with neutrality.
This is about love. This is about light. This is about the idea that you have everything you will ever need.
And this life of yours, this is where you grow, you expand, and you remember who you really are.
I'm Abe.
I'm Isaac.
In Empowered Human Academy, we join with humans of all kinds to feel the inspiration that can only come with empowered living.
The stories you hear today are unique, but the energy you hear today belongs to you too. So, with hearts wide open, let's begin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Empowered Human Academy. Today we are joined by a very special, effervescent person, Antonia Kofelt. We met a few years ago at a brainstorming session for a mutual friend of ours, and we have crossed paths in many different events and experiences in Chicago, and we're just so excited to have you today on our podcast. How's it going, Antonia? What is up? How are you doing? What's on your mind?
I'm feeling really, really good. I will share that my therapist asked me that same question this morning, and I told her that I was feeling empowered and embodied and calm. So I'm feeling on brand, considering this is Empowered Human Academy. I am feeling already on brand.
And speaking of on brand, I just want to let the listeners know real quick, this is like our sixth take today. I think that the universe is like feeling all the power that this conversation is going to be, because we've had to like stop this conversation 6 times because of technical issues, and that's just like the reality of life sometimes. And I think it's really important to honor that, because that's what happens sometimes, and we're just rolling with the punches. So thank you for your patience. Let's get into this conversation. Isaac, take it away.
We begin the way that we always do, by talking about identity. And I want to tie that into what you just said by saying that, like, maybe identity doesn't change through circumstances, but maybe it does. This is part of the inquiry. So we begin by asking about your identity, the words that you choose for yourself that feel like home, not necessarily the words that you use when, like, introducing yourself at a networking event, though there may be overlap. It may or may not have anything to do with your roles in life. But when it's just you and you're not being anything for anyone, when it's just you, what words of identity feel like they fit the most?
The reason why I can tap into these so quickly and share them so quickly is because of experiences via my education and any type of tool and resource that talks about personal emotional inquiry. And so complex, insightful, intuitive, empathetic would be the 4 feelings that when I walk in my house that allows for me to have that deep breath and feel whole.
You were not kidding. You do have quick access to that. Those words feel complex, not to be redundant, but I feel like complex, intuitive, empathic, insightful. There's, when I personally hold those words, I feel the kind of richness that people describe when they're talking about like the subtleties in espresso or wine or something like that. Like there's, for me, and I'm going to stop talking a second because this is not the Isaac show. To me, these words feel like there's a lot of really detailed and moving aliveness. How did these words, how did you develop your relationship with these? Like, how did you come to say, cool, there's a lot here, this is who I am? How did you arrive at this sense of identity?
Yeah, I can say it's taken a lot of work to get here.
Yeah.
Some has been internal and is just part of my natural makeup. I think it's going to be helpful. I love all of the different tools that are available for personality. And so I think it'll be helpful to ground in Myers-Briggs. For me is INFJ/INTJ. I'm equal on those two. So depending on what the situation requires, I can easily get into my T, but by nature, I'm an F. I am also, when we did that brainstorming session, I had just, my homework for that was to take an Enneagram. And so I think I remember showing you guys, like, here's my results. And like, I was equal 3 wing 2 and 4 with a lot of balance throughout, which I think was helpful in the brainstorm in terms of kind of connecting dots. If you use astrology as a tool, I'm a Scorpio sun, Scorpio rising, Taurus moon. So what I love about all of those tools is not that I have to go and think about like, oh, this is exactly what, use those as labels and then hide behind them. It just helps to inform, and that all of them are consistent in some way helps me. And so those are tools and resources. Therapy has been a life send for me. Over the last 5 years, I was always comfortable with therapy. And I'll share more of the details offline and in other things and works that I do. But I think it's also, not only was I inherently born this way in conversations with my mom as I explore my project, but my mother also had mental health issues. And so at the time growing up, it was considered multiple personalities. Now it's dissociative identity. So I was always in an observer mode, and finding those little subtleties, and then understanding how I needed to relate with this person and that person and this person. And then my grounding force in growing up was also my grandparents. And so I had this really multi-generational upbringing that has enabled me to do a lot of the hard internal work on my own and feel comfortable processing. I was surrounded by books, so I used books and films to help me make sense of, okay, I connect with Matilda in this way. What is it that I'm actually connecting with her on, or if it's somebody who's so not like me, like, why is it that I have a deep affinity for some villains, and because I understand them, and yet I can hold space for them and know that, they must be defeated. And so I think that complexity and the way that you were saying that those kind of sound like a label to something, I think it kind of personifies all of the tools and resources that I use to help find this way to wholeness, if that makes sense.
It does. What I'm hearing, like with the litany of tools and things that have informed you. Well, what I'm hearing is that you are like connected to many sources of information all at once. Does that feel right?
Absolutely, constantly. And so I think when I walk in the door and I'm home, I don't have any additional information to sort other than processing what I experienced that day for me and enabling that to make sense for me. I've had many different elements of my journey, and some of that dabbled into specific religions. And now I do not personally see a need to inform the order of chaos. I just know that I react to them, and I embrace the mystery of it without having to say, oh, insert deity to here.
Sure.
And so I wonder if, that is another element that kind of, when I'm in that place of wholeness, I'm in that place of awe and processing and integrating those experiences into my life, which informs the empathy that informs whenever I come across so many diverse individuals. And it served me well in my professional life in terms of being able to know how to elicit genuine, heartfelt feelings. I mean, one example, the other day I was working with a client, but also a member of my network, and she had 2 different options. And for her, it was easy for me to step into my feeling hat. And so I was like, they both look great. With the white background, I feel open and approachable. And excited. With the dark background, I feel formal and staid and mysterious. And so do with that what you will, and choose whichever feels which you want your audience to elicit the most. And so when it comes to event creation, when it comes to developing communication strategies, it has been really easy for me to at least be able to instantaneously have at minimum 6 different perspectives, and how that can be able to how that'll hit those different kind of archetypes in a way that is going to be empathic to them.
My brain is on fire right now. I'm really excited about all of this. It's okay. So I have lots of questions. The first one I think is, how do I want to say this? So it sounds okay. Let's return to something you said. No need to inform the order of chaos. Let's start there. It sounds like that's language that maybe you've used before. Like, what is the order of chaos to you, and what does that have to do with life? Like, what's your relationship to that? What does it mean, and how do you relate to it?
Yeah, it's been interesting for me. One of the major life lessons of COVID was seeing how so many people were feeling unanchored, unmoored, because there wasn't a place to put, like, did insert deity here cause this, or did I do something bad? Or and what was interesting for me during that time was how much I've had my own personal pandemic / 9/11s, and so I had a tool set that enabled me to do really well the first part of it. And then once George Floyd happened, it was me having to do I think I heard Sally Krawcheck from Elvis say, like, I had to do an excavation, but it was me putting words to, well, the tagline of my company on a personal note is life in lockstep with serendipity. And I recognized that I had so many different random chance experiences. And in one lens, I could say that, okay, this was directed by a greater entity, and therefore this is how I respond to it. And yet my personal human capacity still didn't do justice to what this entity should be able to do, and the complexities of what an entity, I shouldn't be able to understand all of that mystery. And so because of that, and sitting in the space of, okay, so what am I comfortable with? I'm comfortable with ambiguity. I know that at least for the next X million of years that the sun is going to rise and set, the moon exists, all systems have natures and expand and contrast. That I can set that and feel trust in that, and not have to have that be informed by this was created or this was totally by chance. And not only was it totally by chance, but it was caused by something that I could just let that sit, and that I can just let it be, and that I still am human, so I do recognize patterns, and I still want to inform the experiences of those chances and the experience, how I interpret that, but I don't have to have it inform the greater of why it happened. I can sit with why and let that just be.
And do you think that your kind of Enneagram 3-ness or kind of intuitiveness allows you to then just like hold it for what it is and then do something kind of with it, not necessarily having to solve it? Yeah, I definitely, it's interesting. That was a process to unlearn, is solving it. This is, I'm 38, I'll be 39 November 1st. And so this is, 39 years of this. I wouldn't expect, to have somebody who, just discovered that, wait, how do I feel today? Like, this is a process to get here. Totally. And I hope, and I'm excited as I continue to grow.
where this deepens into, and to just kind of follow that. And as long as I follow it, but I'm the anchor. I'm the compass. And so is science in the universe for me. And so, and then I can be able to navigate those awe-inducing, mysterious, outside, unexplainable magic, if you will, that happens.
Totally. I love that. I don't know how to say the thing that I want to communicate, so I'm going to start throwing some words on the table and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
The way that I'm, what I'm hearing in the way that you describe the different things that you perceive, from like systems of personality and behavior to, like what you're saying about the chaos, and what you're saying about like stepping through life. I'm hearing like, I'm hearing a movement through life without trying to control it, while also a desire to not over-define the situation and recognize the limitations of the human experience. Is that accurate so far? Would you change anything about?
I wouldn't change anything. I think that's
Okay.
a great synopsis.
So given that, the question that I have is something like, who, maybe it's like, what do you, it could be like, what do you have to, like, what is within you to add to the world? If you're engaged in the work of navigating life and moving through those currents without trying to alter them, what does it mean? Like, what is within you that you then add to life as it's moving around you? That could be the question. Or maybe it's, if you're working to perceive what's true about the world moving around you, with respect to your human experience, what do you perceive about your own human experience, and how do those two relate?
Okay.
I'm explaining this like not perfectly, but it's what I'm trying to get at is that like you perceive so much, and in so many ways through so many senses, and because I'm hearing you sort of like yield to the reality of what's moving around you, I'm also curious about the reality within you and how that interacts with what is without. So the movement between the aliveness within and the aliveness without. I guess that's the line that I'm interested in.
I like it. Okay. So, I think the mental picture that I got when you talked about how the world moves around me, I think will be a great way to illustrate my answer to your question.
Okay.
I think of it as an atom, right? So at the center is my core nuclei, right? And then you have something that's going this way, and then something that's going this way. And then for me, there's a lot of different processes that are happening.
Okay.
And each of those atoms are able to kind of send data back to the nucleus.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
So
Yeah, let's roll with it,
I don't have to necessarily grab for that. Okay. I'm getting the data from it as it's making whatever
almost passively.
orbit that it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And so then I think if we pull back, where my life's purpose is a connector. I am within networks. So in grad school, my last class that I didn't totally get in the moment, but that has just absolutely really defined a huge part of where I recognize and understand my purpose within the human ecosystem is being the connector. And so it was a course called Leveraging Your Networks, and it was taught by a professor named Nashir Contractor, who was responsible for pulling together teams for space stations and being able to do use communication and science to understand how to do best succession plans. It was amazing. And so what I was able to discover during those courses is that I have a lot of different people in all of these different, that live at all of these different intersections that I actually am able to connect with over our shared affinities for art or science, or just there's that moment where it's like, yes, we're kindreds in this interesting way.
Yeah.
And so what I'm not afraid to do, because I'm connecting dots, it's, this person needs to meet this person. Or it's, this is how you are going to want to connect with your audience. You have to, think about, I'm thinking, if it's something that's for actuarial scientists, then let me think through all of the varieties of actuarial scientists that may step into that room, and how can we level set and ground them so that the information that they're hearing, they also are taking that to heart. And so I would say that I'm the center of a network as a connector, and while I'm getting data from all the atoms that are around me, I'm also being able to connect with other people's atoms as they're their own universe, if you will, and they're their own atom, and then being able to quickly see where certain puzzle pieces can fit in.
Yeah, beautiful. Does that make sense? Thank you. Also, thank you for your patience while I fumbled with the question, and also that answer is glorious. Is the way that you go about reasoning around what you sense out there in the world and the connections to be had, is that similar to the way that you work with your own internals? Like, do you sense the things moving within you and into it, the connections that could arise? Like, is that similar, or is that a different process when you're thinking about yourself and what's happening within?
Oh no, it's happening in the same exact way. So let's go back to I walked in my house and I get to be complex and insightful and intuitive and empathetic, and I don't have other competing atoms that I need to be thinking about. I'm now taking the time to integrate and to touch base and reach out specifically now to those individuals. And okay, and then I'm able to kind of, this was a lot, and then it's okay, it's very much kind of here. Is the hand movement I would describe there. Cool. And it's interesting because my love of film and my reference points. So, having grandparents be primary caregivers, and then being able to be around their friends while they're having conversations, and cool. I'm observing and I'm pulling in all of this data. So there was a lot of elements of my life that, if we go to Maslow's hierarchy, which, the originator is highly problematic, but it's a nice tool to use. It wasn't until I was solidly in my mid-20s that I actually felt my age. I always felt like I was 20. And my mom tells a story where she was talking with a friend, and that friend had been watching me that day, and I was 9 years old, and my finger got caught in the door. And so the friend is relaying to my mother how my finger got caught in the door, and that I didn't scream and I didn't cry. I was just, excuse me, my finger's in the door. And this was so it was slammed in the door, and it left a pretty deep scar for a really long time. Yeah. And when my mom retells that story, I'm like, that's weird. That's a weird kid. That feels very Shining and horror movie kind of thing. Excuse me, but my finger's stuck in the door. But I think it kind of indicates the thought process of a kid who has really always been thinking like this. That, okay, yes, I feel pain. Yeah. And yes, I could scream. I recognize that is available to me. But I need to indicate to this adult that I'm not totally comfortable feeling vulnerable with to scream and cry that my finger is stuck in the door. And so these were micro calculations that were happening in the moment, but I think that kind of is my character arc. Is that makes sense?
Amazing. Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Antonia, I'm delighted in Isaac's Enthusiasm, because he's just so excited here. and I'm equally as excited. I haven't talked that much so far because Isaac has so many questions and I'm loving it. But here's why I would have asked the question probably like 10 minutes ago, but here's why I haven't, is because I feel like you're one of the first people on our podcast that like you are speaking my language, and like I very much like understand a lot of the connector, the Enneagram 3, the like really perceptive, really intuitive, and it's so beautiful to like, I don't know, I'm just gonna take a moment to recognize and acknowledge that like it's really cool to feel that connection and wavelength like that. You're just
so I'm mirroring for you
it's just
like and you're like, wow, I do like
holy,
this is
honestly the reason why I probably haven't asked a question, because I'm like, holy shit, I definitely know what she's talking about in all the ways, and it's so beautiful. So I have a couple questions like based on my similar experience. We don't have the same experience, of course, because every experience is different, but let's just start with really personal. If you don't mind us going there, we can talk to however level of comfort you want.
Okay.
For me, the reason why I became so intuitive growing up was kind of based on survival, because I was a Latino gay boy in the closet in the church. And I think a lot of threes have this kind of like way of survival back in the day because of different whatever. Were there any factors that kind of played in your experience? Do you think that there were any factors that played into your was it a need to be aware? Was it a need to be intuitive? Because in order to like, for me, it was like, if I didn't understand the landscape of my school, and because I knew that if I didn't get into honors classes, I would not get into the college that I want to. No one told me that, but I was kind of aware that if I didn't advocate for myself when I was 14 years old to be in an honors class, like who does that? My parents were going to do that. Yeah. That I wouldn't. So like, were there any kind of situations or contexts where you feel like you had to do that, or maybe not? I'm just curious as another fellow three.
No, I think that basically it's the hero's journey. So my environment was the survival mechanism, not only of a parent who is cycling through various personalities, and like to the extent like facial movements would change, cadence and talk would change. So it's almost like, I'm sure there might be listeners who had a parent who might have had substance abuse, or being very hyper vigilant, but then for me it was being hyper vigilant times 7. So it was a lot of that. And there was certain personalities as well that where I was the parentified child too. So I also, one of my deepest hurts, I remember a friend of my mother's coming to the house. I was maybe 8, and they went to the refrigerator, and all that was in there was peanut butter and 2 bottles of Arrowhead water, because we were in Los Angeles. And when they opened it and they looked at it, they tell my mother, "Oh, this looks like a dead person's refrigerator." And I took that immediately as, I'm doing the best I can. Like this is what I knew to be able to get for us. Kind of a thing. And so that, like, to be able to share that story and know that scab is come over, because it was maybe up until 2 years ago, I couldn't tell that story without crying, because it's still kind of, so I was definitely in survival mode, and not only survival mode for myself, but then survival mode for someone who would often be dependent upon me at a really young age. And so I think my grandparents were my respite. My grandparents were the ones that allowed for me to be a kid as much as I possibly could. And so if I'm, watching Stage Door or King and I, these not only were escapes for me, but they were also additional models for how to overcome, or be little signposts to say you'll get through this, or hey, that really mean teacher, do we classify this as a villain that is there to help you, as a villain who is empty, as a villain, and then and so those were all kind of like training tools too. And so I definitely think that it was born out of a survival mechanism and then honed out of a survival mechanism.
Well, and that's why I feel like I've resonated with you, because even since I think the first conversation that we had at our mutual friend's house, we were talking about, you were like, I'm just very aware of like different contexts, and you were able to bring that awareness into that brainstorm session when I was like, okay, she's so smart. She's so like, I can connect with her on that level, internally at least. And what I love about you is that you have, in my perception at least, like turned that into like something so grand, like the hero's journey that you're talking about. Like you are your own hero, and you are moving through that journey for yourself in such a powerful way, and it's really palpable. And that's why I'm excited to be talking to you. So I just want to acknowledge that, because I need to say that, because I don't think a lot of people understand, like a lot of threes that I've met, Enneagram threes that I've met, like it came from somewhere where they were trying to like, they had to be aware when they were young. So I have two questions. One is, you know, you were saying when you were younger, you hurt your hand, and you like eloquently said like, oh, my hand is stuck or whatever. Have you experienced or experimented with play later in your life in a way that you didn't when you were younger, and what did that look like?
Absolutely.
What does that look
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So I wanted to quickly go back to Hero's Journey, and then in that, when I launched my company and I revealed it to what wound up being 37 people. There were 99 people that I like, with an extreme prejudice, was like, who's in my network that I know is going to really be ready for not only this honor, but to be ready for what I'm ready to do. And then there were 37 people on the call, and that is what I shared with them, that when I looked across the friend group, the people who have been invited were people who have at least completed one legitimate hero's journey, and that who I watch make the choice to do it over and over and over and over again. Even when they know this isn't going to be fun, or, you know, I'm in the meeting with the goddess right now and I just need to be a hermit or whatever, but you're doing it. And that is, I wonder how, in terms of, you know, they say building your tribe, but how you can trust when you have built out this network, where the alignment is, and how you can be able to make a snap judgment of like, no, this person, I don't need to know their specific pain, but I know they have made it through the pain. Like they have come into that whole other world. And to answer your question, specifically in terms of, like you said, how other people process this, I guess maybe I forgot the part of your question.
No, what's your relationship been to play as you go on your hero's journey? You know, if you didn't have that as much growing up. Yeah.
Yes. So out of that, another person that we met that I met, you might have met him too, but he was at another human focused event. He did something called Bricks and Brands, where he uses Legos to help uncover a lot of those blocks through play. And so I have been able to develop people in my network who pull me out of that, whether they specifically say that to me or not. Like, hey, you need play. The other day, my friend Daniel was like, hey, there's this movie. It's going to be on such and such a day. Maybe that'll help pull you out of reality. So sometimes they specifically say it, but other times it's having those members of your network that invite you to stuff that are much more creative and artistic. And I think I say that I'm not an artist in the sense of I put paintbrush to canvas or that I sing or anything like that. How I see myself as an artist is by being the observer, and I take that role very seriously.
Yeah.
And so it's when I'm finding opportunities for adventure, when it's like, ooh, this event looks really neat, and I wonder who's my adventure buddy for this. And so just a few weeks ago, I was filming a segment that was about adventure, and I had serendipitously met somebody in my laundry room that was wearing a t-shirt that I commented on. Then she tells me about this specific event, and it's this like goth industrial punk rock 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. kind of an event. Awesome. And I was like, let me go through my Rolodex. Oh, this is the person who would love to go with me, and let's actually make a thing of it. And like, oh, I know somebody in my network who is a makeup artist. And like, then I went on Pinterest and I'm like, okay, what is my mood? I'm feeling very like Aeon Flux slash like Marlena Dietrich, like, you know, that kind of thing. I want to smolder. I want to, you know, that kind of a thing. And so it's me finding play through adventure. It's me being able to discover someone who feels like what they do is really small or they're never going to be discovered. That like, no, I see you and you did something incredible, and to hype that.
Because that can be really playful, and your energy can be really playful in that. We ran into each other randomly in Chicago in May, and we were just like, oh, what's going on? I think that there's opportunities for play even in those small moments, which is great. I have a question about, did you have something to say real quick?
Just real fast. What I'm hearing here, it seems like, I don't know, you seem like a manifestation of the universe yourself. Like, I feel like the universe just like does this, like connects factors and agents and people and environments and situations. And to hear you, there's a word, elucidate, to hear you talk, like to hear you articulate that process as something that you're intrinsically motivated to carry out, is extremely freaking cool.
Thank you.
I've been really interested in this this connection. What's your new company called again?
On a personal note.
On a personal, and the tagline is
Life in Lockstep with Serendipity.
Okay, so how is your intuition? Or can you share with the listeners with the connection between intuition and moments of serendipity?
Intuition, especially if you treat it as a muscle and you keep using it, it will, I think, help you get comfortable with not having to make decisions when you're faced with neutrality. So I learned and tapped into my intuition when it came time to see a therapist for crisis, you know, and then ultimately that's converted into life coaching and other things. But it was something that I had been ignoring. Like my everything inside of me was telling me one thing, and then it was like, but, you know, my programming, my upbringing, traumas are all informing it. And so things that I started doing really early was like trusting if it's neutral and I'm just taking a walk, do I go left, right, or straight? And then left. Okay, let's see what happens to go left. Like moments of neutrality. And what would interestingly happen in being like, oh no, go straight here. Let's stop here and look at that flower. Or what is that bird doing? Or just take a moment to just breathe or see that car. And then you wind up finding, hey, I never noticed that little store there. You go into that little store and you wind up making an amazing connection with the proprietor, and you have this long conversation, and it's like, man, like if I hadn't gone left or straight or right there, this wouldn't have happened. And so I feel like for me, it became very addicting. And maybe this goes back to your question of play. Me not having to finding myself in a safe enough environment where mentally, emotionally, psychologically, where my inner child could trust me that like, I'm not trying to take you into danger. And that kind of builds it. And then ultimately it's like, it gets so fast to where it's just right, left. And I'm comfortable with whatever happens on the other end of it. And so it's me not only showcasing for other people the menagerie of people, places, and things that I've serendipitously encountered, and look at this amazing roster of people. It's like my own personal Sesame Street in the midst of all other horrific things that other people can feel energized and exhilarated to kind of build their own and feel safe enough to build their own, and then trust immediately that no, I being able to take a moment to pull back and be like, I've developed a solid network, and these are all people that I trust because I trust myself, and I've given them the time to give me more indicators, as oh, okay, yep, check, I can trust that, and that they don't even know that they're doing, and I'm not specifically testing them, but and then that enables you to trust when you find yourself in, like, who would have thought that I would have run into XYZ on the streets of London? Like, what? How?
Totally.
What? And it's being comfortable, because it's like, yeah, I decided to take a spur of the moment trip. Well, I decided to go take a walk. Like, and knowing that's just for me, I would just inform that as another signpost of serendipity.
And I love what you said about it being a muscle that you practice, and the more fun you like, it's because it's fun. Like, there are things the things that come out of that intuition and that choosing and that muscle building is actually really fun, and it's I find it kind of addicting too. Like, how can life in that flow is a lot more interesting than life out of that flow, in my opinion. So it seems like I don't know. That's what I get when I'm hearing you're like London, and I'm walking in London, and so is a friend who I randomly met 3 years ago at a coffee shop because I decided to say yes. And I think I think just a quick question, like, not every moment of serendipity equals like new friends or whatever, but like overall over the course of your life, there have been 8 or 9, 10, or 8 or 9 yeses for one no, or kind of thing, because people want to play. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And like being able to be like, wow, like, if I hadn't taken my walk at this point, then I wouldn't have seen those 7 geese fly really low across the street. One of my movies that my grandmother absolutely loved and introduced me to is Sound of Music, and there is a scene in that movie where in the background there are like 4 or 5 swans that are flying as the main characters are having a conversation. And every time that I see that scene, it's like, that is serendipity. The director could not know that those swans were going to go at that particular time, and the editor could not have known that was going to be the cut that is going to make it into the film. And so sometimes it's just noticing that, like, those geese weren't aware that I was going to be watching them, but I inform the moment of being out on that walk at that moment as like, oh, that's really, really neat that I got to see that. So it can also be really, really small.
What does it feel like to claim? Well, no. Okay. The question I want to actually ask is, like, what does it feel like to make the bet of, like, this is a real enough thing that I can include this in the definition of my business? What does it feel like to, like, show up to a world that so often is looking for, like, guarantees of specific results, to show up to that world and name serendipity as a factor that you are betting on? That might not be the right verb to use, so please substitute a different one if you like.
No, I like it. I like it. It feels like a through line. It feels like if everyone is the hero of their own journey, they are going and that they're going to have gone through dark nights of the soul, and then they're going to have gone through, come out the other side and had the meeting with the goddess and all of that on those touch points in everyone's life. That's like, man, like, and I got out of that car wreck completely unscathed, or, there's these moments that everyone I think can connect to, that it's that whether they inform that through a specific belief system or religion, they can still, they know that experience. That is a human experience. And I'm betting on the fact that that's a human experience, and I'm betting on the fact that this is something that, regardless of if you call it a blessing, if you call it magic, if you call it manifestation, if you call whatever you call it, we know that that is a little something special. That's something with a couple little tiny twinkly stars around it. That's like, okay, all right.
It's so universal,
and it feels so good. And it feels so good. And from a science perspective, I think there's an author that someone has shared with me that I need to read the book, but his name is Sean B. Carroll. And he's talking about, apparently in this book, about how, like, the chances of the universe, like, to even come into existence, if it was 30 minutes before or 30 minutes later, like, none of us would be here. And, like, how many trillion, if not infinite, number of ways for us physically to be Antonia and Abe and Isaac that needed to happen for this specific flesh and blood element of us to be here. And so I think it's something that it crosses imposed programming barriers and systems that everyone can be able to connect to and also be a part of someone else's serendipity. I mean, if you don't wind up hitting the open door button for somebody, who knows? Like, maybe they were supposed to wait for the next one. Maybe that's going to lead them to some other element. Or if you had made it, like, maybe that would have gotten you upstairs for something that you didn't want to be a part of. And so it's almost like the who knows and being okay with, like, delays or things that you didn't get to do without being like, oh, I'm such a horrible, unkind person because I didn't want to press it. Or I'm such a horrible and unkind person because I didn't want to, in that moment, reach for my wallet and pull out my money to give to this person in need. Whereas there's other times where you do have that time. So it's just kind of, I think there's might be even something here with grace, Isaac. I mean, Abe, we were dealing with grace, I think, on the same day when I was looking at your socials. And so maybe there's some element of grace here that's involved.
That is an unexpected turn. I was not anticipating a discussion of serendipity to land here on, like, maybe this is an avenue towards grace, or like the like, just loosen your shoulders and for, like, it's not someone else's experience is not riding on you, like something is coming for them also, regardless of what is yours to do in the moment. That's super interesting.
Well, and then I mean, we were talking about it way in the beginning of our conversation, like, not every problem needs to be solved, and just holding, you're like, the universe is here, the sun is going to be shining, like, I don't need to solve that problem, and just hold it with open hands and then do what you need to do or want to do.
Yeah, I think that is something that's interesting. And I wonder, for me, on my journey and getting to maybe connecting those two, is coming to the realization that despite great intentions on my part, that I am the villain in somebody's story. And in recognizing that as long as I am not the villain that is purposefully trying to harm somebody, as long as I'm an obstacle because I'm putting up my own personal boundaries around this for self-protection and preservation mechanisms, recognizing what that needs to mean in my proximity to said person, and then knowing that hopefully they will inform that particular experience around something good. If it's something that I am the villain because it's story building and I feel in this particular situation the need to, like, help that along and see the different perspective, great. But otherwise, like it kind of maybe was done in that work of not caring what other people think, and not it maybe some of that serendipity and grace kind of came out of that work, where it's not like I'm out here trying to create serendipity. I think that's the other thing. It's not like we're out here like, oh, you know, I wonder who am I gonna meet, and like, oh, and then if I do this, then maybe then this person will show up. Like, it's not. It is. There's not that kind of energy. It's like, what do I want to do? think I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna go for a walk toward the lake.
Well, it's listening. It's
Yeah.
listening to what you want. It's listening to what could feel good or what does feel good, right? Versus like, oh wait, I need to meet this person at the lake today. I'm gonna go. But honestly, sometimes I literally met Isaac. I literally met Isaac like that. I was like, I'm going to find a husband who on Grinder, on Scruff, whatever.
Yes.
And I'm gonna find him. So I'm gonna actually create this for myself. And I think like it was serendipitous the way we met, because I was on that journey of like, I decided to find a husband, and I had no idea. I think it was that choice, but then like I was open to seeing how I was going to do it, but I decided that I was going to, and then
to be open.
Everything else kind of fell into place from there. And I think sometimes people are like, well, I think in the past I was like, well, like I should feel ashamed of like wanting to find a husband, like I should feel ashamed of that, versus like, no, actually I want to take control of my life, like this is what I want. So I don't know. Anyways, that just brought that random thought up.
I love that.
Yeah, the model of like the lived experience and the way all of ours intersect that you're building here in this conversation feels very like it crackles with energy in my head. Like it's the idea that or like the reality that you're describing, that my words are failing me. I'm just very excited about how all this fits in the idea that like all of our stories are intersecting so specifically, but also with such freedom. Like if I turn this way, like maybe a million other stories will change around it, but it will all work. And there will be something exciting to find along the way.
I think it invites me, and hopefully maybe some listeners, to just be aware of moments of serendipity too. Like, oh, if I'm driving, that's how we met our neighbors recently. Like we were driving through the alley and they were taking out their garbage, and we were like, hey, and now we're friends now. You know what I mean? Like who knew that? Like,
yes.
I mean, when was another time we could meet them? We don't know, but that was a moment of serendipity. But just being aware of it to then like notice more times in our life.
The muscle that you're saying.
muscle,
like building that as a muscle.
And noticing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really amazing. And I was mentioning earlier in terms of like the first half of the first 3 months of COVID, I was, you know, having to be like, this is my wheelhouse. The world is all now where I'm at in terms of introversion, and let's roll, you know, we can roll through these punches, and the conversations that I was having with members of my network in the early days was like, we've been through some hard stuff. We'll get through this too. And it wasn't feeling that element of panic. And then George Floyd happened, and there was some things that I had to uncover within my own experience as a Black woman with various privileges because of socioeconomic and class, and how I was navigating those, and still being able to bring in all of the other things in my life that I've been informed by. I've been informed by a system of film and art that is going to be predominantly majority culture, and yet being able to then hold space again for I can see what these people look like and they don't look like me, but how I apparently was connecting with the human experience. And I think for me, and kind of being able to kind of look at serendipity from that lens, it's like no one wants this horrific, horrible thing to happen And yet the serendipitousness of when it happened, that it's a time where the entire world had nothing else to do but to focus on this. And then to all go and do that internal work, and then to all be able to reevaluate your friend groups, or how you've showed up to those friend groups, or where you may have they may have kind of not felt comfortable. I know for me, I never felt comfortable always, this is what I'm like when I'm at home with my family, and I'm in a predominantly white school or a predominantly white space. And so, me operating and navigating through, in quotations, assimilation, and then me being able to then, now I'm going to inform the tragedy of this particular experience by then making changes in my own life. And on a personal note, I think is kind of layered in that I'm doing, for it to be on a personal note, I have to do personal stuff, and I have to share my personal elements, and I have to undo and tackle some of that specific trauma or shadow stuff to feel comfortable sharing this particular story with this other person out loud. So I think there's various impact points that it doesn't even have to be as personal as that. It can be something, catastrophic that happens, without necessarily having to be like, it happens for a reason, as much as there's a reason that it happened, and now this is how I'm going to do what I can to best inform that reason through how I live my life, or the decisions that I now make, or how I now show up, or how I now can show up as a whole individual.
Totally.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
You should write a book.
Okay, I'll jot that down. I feel like we need a part 2.
I know.
So I'll get my calendar together, and then we'll think about that. If not, just a visit. I would love
absolutely.
to yeah.
I'm like, in this moment, I'm specifically deeply excited about how, like, all of these things, like the way that you the way that you perceive and model and interact with your lived experience and that of others, and serendipity, and the personal, like the necessity of having to go through the personal work in order to then present on a personal note. Like, what I'm excited about here, among many other things in this conversation, is that there are elements of such personal import in this brand that you are creating, and I'm super excited. Like, on a personal note, living life in lockstep with serendipity. Yes, did I quote that correctly?
Yes.
Awesome. Like, we've touched on, I didn't plan on this, but like, you've touched on every element of that, and it's all so significant and fits together so well. And I'm struck by how strongly every element that has gone into this thing that you're making is a part of how you take on the world, the life, like being alive,
and how you effortlessly talk about it. I mean, it was just kind of infused in the conversation.
Congratulations, honestly, on setting your sights on something so true, if I can say it that way, if that's not too bold. Like, it's super cool.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. We're wrapping up here, and so we've got 2 closing questions, and the first one is, what does an empowered Antonia look like and feel like?
Me right now having this conversation with you all.
Fantastic. Yes.
Amazing. And finally, what do you know for sure?
I know that the universe is a set of various systems, starting with how expansive and how it also expands to galaxies, to stars, to planets, to humans, to other mammals and insects and birds, to the way that our systems of respiratory and circulatory. And so if I'm ever at a loss, that I can always at least understand that there are those types of systems in place, and I can feel somewhat grounded in a moment of when I'm adrift. So I do know that for sure. I do know that the sun is going to rise.
Wow,
I'm so happy.
you are talking Isaac's language. He loves systems, and by way of Isaac, I love systems now because it's really powerful, and you're powerful. And thank you so much for your time, for your heart, for your mind, for all the science knowledge that you're just dropping. I freaking love it. I love it. Antonia, thank you so much. Over and out.
Okay, bye.
This podcast is the work of Lightward, our company, named for that toward the light direction which informs every single thing that we do, including money, which means, like everything else, the way we earn revenue is not based on industry norms. It's based on what feels deeply right and aligned by passing through the door that feels like it has more behind it, not less. And the way we keep this podcast going is all Lightward. It's pay what feels good. It's an exchange of value between you and us. We're keeping conventional podcast advertising totally out of this. And here's how Pay What Feels Good works. We give you this episode because it feels good to do so. And you consider, honestly, what number of dollars this episode is genuinely worth to you. I do not care if that's $3, $1,000, or literally $0 and a heart emoji, as long as that trade genuinely makes your day better. And the energy there is the entire point. That is what we're building our business on. No advertisers, no selling your attention, just you and us, trading value in a way that builds us both up. So whatever the number, when you're done listening, head to empoweredhumanacademy.com and hit the Pay What Feels Good button. We use this policy across all of our company's work, and I'm really excited to bring it here to the world of podcasts. This is us voting for the world we want to see. Thank you for being here.